This episode is brought to you by Espolón Tequila. Slow, sticky, snoozy. They call these the dog days of summer. But Espolón? They don't do boring. Welcome to the Marg Days. Espolón Tequila. 100% blue Weber agave, born to shake up your summer. Just add lime, agave, and a little attitude. Visit espolontequila.com. Espolón Tequila, 40% alcohol, volume 80 proof. Copyright 2025 Campari America, New York, New York. Drink responsibly.
This episode is brought to you by Wayfair. Podcasts follow us everywhere. Whether you're cooking in the kitchen, chilling in the living room, or pretending to fold laundry in the bedroom. And with Wayfair, every one of those rooms can tell a story of its own. Their curated collections of furniture styles and prices make Wayfair the trusted destination to turn your home into your happy place. Shop everything home at wayfair.com with free and easy delivery straight to your door.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back, folks. This is the More Money Show. We are national now. We went national about 4 weeks ago, syndicated throughout the country. I want to thank all the people listening to the show from coast to coast. We have affiliates in California, San Francisco, Kansas City, Chicago, Detroit, of course, the New York area, et cetera, et cetera. So thank you for joining. We like to talk about economics. We try to make economics and finance fun and understandable, which people think when they hear about economics, they cringe because they think it's so complicated, but it really isn't. And one of the guys who I always turn to on economics and finance and making more money is my good friend, David Bahnsen. You all know David Bahnsen because every time you turn on Fox Business News, there's David. I think he's always, you and Stuart Varney are great together, David. Are you going to be on tomorrow with Stuart?
No, but I do have a couple appearances coming up. I love being on with Stuart, and I always love it when you're on right before me. It gives me
exactly.
to talk about.
So I always just listen to what you say, and then I just say what exactly what you said. But David is also a great look. He's the Warren Buffett of our times. He's been an amazing investor, and he is also I don't know how you find the time, David, but he's also the author of many books. The two that I like the most, I think these are your two most recent, David, are Full Time, which is work and the meaning of life. And I love that. And we've had many discussions with David on this about how important work is, not just for your income, but for your soul, for your reason to be. And we need more people working. And the other one I love is There's No Free Lunch, which of course is something that Milton Friedman used to say. And it's all these nice little sayings in economics and why they are true. And there's nothing better than the one that's, unfortunately, there is no free lunch. So, David, let's get right down to it. Thanks for joining. By the way, if you want to access this information, I just went to davidbahnsen.com and I found all your stuff, David. So I don't know if there's a better way to reach you, but that seemed to be a good, is there another way people can access your stuff?
Well, the easiest website to remember, because my last name is so tricky to spell, is dividendcafe.com, Dividend Cafe.
Got it. So, okay, so much to talk about, David, because this is what I would call a tumultuous week. It was like a roller coaster. One day we get this great GDP report. The next day, a lousy jobs report. We had all the talk of trade turmoil, new tariffs, and so on. I'm not a big tariff guy, as you know. I don't think you are either. But given all the news that came in this week, where are you at right now? I mean, I remain kind of bullish. There's a big sell-off, but a lot of this information that came in that was negative was 2 or 3 months old.
Well, I think it's a mixed bag, Steve. And so if we try to look at it objectively, it's funny I got to bring up Dividend Cafe because it's what my whole commentary was about yesterday at dividendcafe.com is trying to assess these tariffs objectively, not trying to cheerlead short term and not trying to go criticize the president short term, but rather what is it we need to be looking for in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. And my argument is that what a lot of people are obsessed with is whether or not tariffs are going to push prices up and the whole inflation issue.
Right.
And that's fine. That if certain prices do go higher, it's not going to help the president politically. But I don't think that's the biggest economic question, Steve. I think people have to look for whether or not the tariffs start to constrict total trade. Because if they do, then companies have a choice to make. If demand starts moving lower, they either have to raise prices and possibly lose market share, or hold prices but then lose margin, lose corporate profits. And I promise you, if you look at the GDP number, the one thing we cannot afford to see go down right now is corporate profits. It was not a great GDP number for Q2 because basically for us supply-siders, the thing that most matters in economic growth, production, business investment, only up. It was only up 0.27%.
Right.
All of the move higher in GDP was just simply the decline in imports that had been followed by the big spike in imports the quarter before. So those two things kind of offset each other, and you end up with right now an economy halfway through the year that on an annualized basis is barely growing at over 1%. So my question that I put forward is, will we get new markets open in these trade deals? Will the talk of Japan and European Union with liquefied natural gas, will there be more investment into America? Or will the protectionists win out? Will all this silly talk about lowering the trade deficit win out? And it will constrict economic activity. Because if foreign investment drops, then that means, of course, that productivity will drop. And I don't think that's what we want. So I have questions, but I don't feel that anybody should be predicting with a lot of certainty, oh, this is going to be terrible, or, oh, this is going to be great. I think there's a lot of uncertainty out there right now, Steve.
I agree with almost everything you just said. I think it's a great analysis of what's happened and what these statistics tell us. The one thing that, let me ask you about, first of all, you're exactly right about the importance of investment. You know, I've always said international economics are very important. Whoever gets the most investment wins. And if we can suck in and that's, you know, if you look at the Reagan years when we had the big boom, we sucked all this capital into the United States because we cut tax rates and had freer trade, et cetera, et cetera. And you've got these commitments now, David, as you know, from the Europeans and other countries to invest more in the United States. And I don't remember the exact number, but it's in the hundreds of billions of dollars. It's not inconsequential. So I would think that if the Europeans keep those promises and invest in here, and by the way, you know, it's a good place to invest in the United States, particularly compared to Europe, that will solve some of the problem, won't it?
Yes, but the problem is that it isn't really a clear commitment yet. We have a framework.
Right. Yes.
And yet there's certain questions as to what parts of these dollars being thrown out are including foreign direct investment, and is that at risk of going down if tariffs impede demand? And so I do agree that that's the real opportunity, but it's also an unknown right now. And then there is a piece to it as well. And it's just, I am so supportive of the president when it comes to deregulation, pro-growth tax cuts, energy. But this idea of he is personally going to direct the investments,
that's a good point.
Never understood a president to be trying to drive that economic decision-making. It's not what we believe in.
No, this is a very important point. So I want these foreign countries to invest in the United States because we have lower taxes, because we have, a deregulated economy, because we're producing a lot of energy, because we have great workers and great entrepreneurs and great companies. I'm totally with you. I think the idea that this president or any politician is going to tell, you know, companies where to invest in, that's a really bad idea.
And it's not necessary because, like you point out, with our dynamic and innovative economy, then capital has a very funny way, as you know, Steve, of migrating to its most rational and efficient use. So there's no need for Washington, D.C. to be an intermediary.
So I was saying that, there was a pretty big sell-off when all these numbers came out. But, as I look at it, David, you got the president's deregulating. You left out one thing, by the way, that's very positive, which is look at what's happening with government spending. Government spending is flat or falling. And I think we'd agree that's a good thing because government got way too big under Biden. You've got, these new trade deals, which is good. You got the tax cuts. So much of what I see out of Washington is moving in the right direction, notwithstanding the tariff turmoil. Trump is doing a lot of amazing things that would seem to generate growth for the future.
Well, and I think that the big issue with the big, beautiful bill about business expensing, about bonus depreciation, those things are genuinely supply side. And I think that when you put let's say, $300 billion of benefit that represents up against what may be a $300 billion cost in tariffs, then there's a tug of war. And the principle that I've had to live my financial career by of humility comes into effect because I don't have the ability to know which one's going to win out. But I wish that we didn't have the tension. You had about $30 billion of tariff costs in 2018 after the president did the largest supply side corporate income tax cut in history.
Right.
That was stimulative. That pushed us up above 3% real GDP growth. That created a boom that actually lasted, after we got through the COVID nonsense. All of a sudden, we were back in a little healthier place with the economy. And obviously, Biden spent too much and regulated too much, and they passed some bad bills. But we were still repatriating foreign dollars because of President Trump's first-term activity. I don't know what is on the table right now that represents a boom that big, and yet the tariff issue is much bigger. So I have to be skeptical in my optimism, or at least cautious. Okay. But I do see the good things you're talking about. I just don't believe people are thinking about it the right way when they're only focused on whether or not prices go higher. Inflation is not the only risk here. Growth matters, and growth comes from capital investment.
So I only have a few more minutes of your time. I'm talking to the great David Bahnsen, one of the best investors in America, and you see him all the time on Fox Business and Fox News. So I wanted to just switch to this issue because we got the jobs report. And this is something you and I have talked about this on this show over and over again. But for people who aren't as familiar with your work, your full-time book, which is called Full-Time Work and the Meaning of Life. One of my big concerns about the economy, and we've talked about this, David, is males in working age, their labor force participation has been flat or falling. And I see social, cultural, and economic problems with that. And can you just talk to that? Because your book really addresses this issue.
Yeah, let's just put some numbers on it, Steve, so the listeners understand how severe it is. We came out yesterday with a 62.2% labor participation force, and even for prime working age people, it's at 84%. And of course, that 24 to 50, there's a lot of women in that data set that are at home as mothers, and so you expect a little difference between women and men on that, just historically. The number of prime working or looking for work is at a low we haven't seen. It's just absolutely unfathomable. And I believe it speaks to a spiritual, a social, a cultural problem that then becomes an economic problem. It doesn't start as an economic problem. It becomes one. And I really think all this talk about we need our manufacturing jobs back, well, okay, maybe some will come back. I don't think all of them will, but I hope some. But guess what? What if there's no workers? That's the challenge, I think, is that we have got to solve for a country that celebrates a really strong, robust work ethic.
So one of my concerns is the social impact of this, of, men without jobs. And that is that, women are now earning in many occupations more than men are. And that does cause people are going to accuse me of being a sexist and so on for saying this, but the reality is that women want to marry men who are doing economically better than they are. And women are having a harder time finding men that are doing better than they are. And that is because one of my big concerns is the fertility rate is way down, David. And I want to see more babies in this country. And so what do you think about that whole issue?
Oh, I think, Steve, you're hitting the nail on the head of a vicious cycle that has a possibility to become a virtuous cycle. Marriable men are more employable, and employable men are more marriable. All right. So if
right.
one of those things gets worse, the other one gets worse. If one gets better,
right.
The other one gets better. And if you want the recipe to a happy life, Steve, I know how hard you've worked and all the things you've done in your career. I know you're a happily married man. These things feed together and create a happy life. A man who doesn't look for work and doesn't have someone to date and to marry and to have kids with, that creates a negative feedback loop where you do see these people finding drug abuse and alcoholism.
Hey, David, we got to take a quick break. We got to take a quick break. Can you hold over for a few minutes and come back?
I'm happy to, Steve. You bet.
Oh, okay. We're going to take a quick break, folks, and we'll be back with David Bahnsen. This is The More Money Show.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The More Money Show with Steve Moore. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back, folks. I twisted the arm of my good friend David Bahnsen to stick over for another segment because we were having a very fascinating conversation. Yeah. By the way, you see David Bahnsen all of the time on Fox News and Fox Business News, one of the top investment advisors in the country. His latest book is Full-Time: Work and the Meaning of Life. And so, David, to continue our conversation we were having before the break, what do we do about this? I mean, I see this as a big problem for the economy, that men are not working like they were in the past, that their labor force participation rate, as you just were citing the statistics, is down. We have more women working and fewer men working. And I don't like those trends. I don't like them for economic reasons. I don't like them for social reasons. I don't like them because it's leading to issues like lower marriage rates and so on. So do you have any solution to this problem?
Yeah, so there's so many different aspects here. If we're talking about federal government, let's stop this nonsense where federal government money goes out like water for undergraduate degrees, where we're leaving people with $200,000 of debt and a sociology degree, and let men who want to go be welders and electricians and plumbers and other things where, by the way,
David, those people make a lot of money.
That's what I was saying, is that there's great six-figure incomes available.
Yeah.
And not after you do it for 15 years. That's going to be available in just a couple years sometimes. But the federal government is limited, but of course the deregulation is important. I think that the states have a lot they can do with a lower regulatory burden in the workforce with employers. But then a lot of this, Steve, I mentioned before, spiritual, social, cultural. Right. Churches need to be promoting a work ethic. We need stronger family formation. A lot of our housing policies are basically geared to be anti-family. They subsidize low-income, multifamily housing, and we don't have enough single-family stock built. All of these things contribute either in public policy or in the culture to a bad work environment.
So I agree with that. And I would add to that, David, the fact that, by the way, his book is Full-Time, and it's a great book about the dignity of and meaning of work and why work is so important. And you and I have talked about this on previous shows, but for our new listeners, correct me if I'm wrong about this, but people who work are happier, they have more self-fulfillment, and they live longer.
Well, substantially so. And they, of course, achieve better economic well-being and have other benefits and health coverage. So there's this whole, portfolio of benefits that go along with it. But the happiness is the most important one. That's the goal of all this. Way too many conservatives that love free markets have not talked enough, Steve, about the purpose of it. The purpose of a free market, a free society, is for human flourishing. And that's obviously, a big theme in my book, No Free Lunch. This is part of human flourishing, is production and work and the fulfillment that comes from it. And so I believe that the recipe for a happy life is faith, family, friends, and work.
So one last thing on the way out, David. It's been a fascinating conversation. I'm talking to the great David Bahnsen. I want to get your reaction to a proposal that a lot of my conservative friends have come up with. How do we bring birth rates back up? Because they're very, very low right now, and they're problematic. We're going to have a shrinking population if we don't do something about this. And there's a real movement of conservatives to pay couples to have babies. And I wonder what you think about that.
Oh, I think it's an awful idea and totally unnecessary. Now, first of all, we have to call it awful just on the basis of our own principles, that the government becoming an economic actor in key issues of our lives is generally something we don't believe in, and it really has a certain nanny state component to it that I'm deeply uncomfortable with, and it lacks a limiting principle. Who's to say at some point we don't have the government paying people not to have children?
Well, David, it's been a great conversation.
It's unnecessary.
We've got a hard break now, but I appreciate you coming on. That's David Bahnsen. Get his book full time and watch him on Fox News. And folks, this is the More Money Show.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
When you're having a baby, there's a lot on your mind. At Northwell's Staten Island University Hospital, you can rest easy with our reimagined labor and delivery experience. Our new Grapuso Women and Newborn Center provides private suites, overnight accommodations for a loved one, and a top-level NICU, all powered by the team that cares for the most moms and babies in New York. It's care made for Staten Island and made for you. Visit northwell.edu/newbaby. Staten Island University Hospital. Raise health.
Rose is your name, but when you poop it sure don't smell like roses. Your number 2 burns the hair in my nose, but we fought hand in paw. Now your poop don't stink at all. Now that the air is clear, I'll treasure your front and rear, my sweet Rose.
Instantly neutralize poop stink with Poop Fighter from World's Best Cat Litter for the world's best cat.